Hello and welcome to the Season 8 SimVP Awards here on this lovely Friday night. And, it's a night of festivities as we celebrate the great season that we have had and celebrate some of the achievements of some of the great players of our game. I'm your Commissioner Wilke, joined by a lovely panel of Anthony McDonald and Liam Rogers. As we give out awards tonight, we are very excited. And, I think there are some really fun awards tonight. What do you think, fellas?
Yeah, lots of really good names up on the chopping block tonight for these awards, and a lot of real good rookies up there, and not just for the Rookie of the Year award.
I couldn't agree more, Anthony. I think it's been a really promising year for the SRL, especially with all the young talent that's been coming in as well. We see the minds coming back in that competition, and then we also see just what's happened in general with the SRL as a whole, with everyone kind of making their name, and even players that weren't really in consideration for a while last year for some awards. They're up here tonight, and they're really staking their claim as one of the premier players in the league. So, yeah, completely agree with you, Anthony and Will. I think this will be a fantastic night.
Yeah, awesome. And without further ado, let's get underway for our first award of the night, which is Game of the Season. We've got 4 nominations here, which is Broncos versus Knights, Warriors versus Dolphins, Bulldogs versus Cowboys, and Titans versus Broncos. Now, the score lines for that is Broncos 31-30 to Knights, the Warriors 44-30 for the Dolphins, the Bulldogs 24-25 via the Cowboys, the Titans 54-34 against the Broncos. Now, a lot of good games here. What do you guys think of these games, and what do you think your favourite for the game of the season is?
Well, personally, I know which one is favorite for me. I loved that Broncos versus Knights game. It was a massive game all the way up until the end, and we winning it by a field goal from Edwards was absolutely phenomenal, considering we were 2 for 2 at the time, and that was the first loss for the Knights of the season. On the other hand, Titans v Broncos. Liam would understand exactly how much that meant to the Titans, that mid-season game just then.
It was one of our rare wins.
I think from memory,
yeah.
you guys were winning up until that point, and then you started losing.
We might have been. I choose to selectively forget the majority of the Titans season, if I'm being completely honest with you. I don't really know why that game was there. Obviously, I enjoyed myself a lot, but I don't know how interesting that was to a neutral observer. I think I'm actually going to agree with Anthony where we go to Broncos versus Knights. I think that was actually fantastic. And Bulldogs versus Cowboys, I think, was a massive secret as well. I've been a massive fan of both teams this season. Obviously, I think that Monkey and Moana have done absolutely brilliant jobs. And even Warriors versus Dolphins as well. Seeing those two clubs go together, obviously lots of old teammates getting into action. I think there's some really strong contenders on here, to be honest, and I can't wait to see which one gets up.
And without further ado, your game of the season for Season 8. It was a very close one between the Broncos v Knights, and this game, it was none other than the Bulldogs versus the Cowboys. It was a very close game. The Cowboys clutching a win after being 18 points down at halftime, I believe. 18-0, so it was a very, very strong game indeed.
Yeah, you love to see it.
But a big congratulations to both teams for that, for contributing such an entertaining match for our season. But we'll move on now. So, performance of the season. This is an award that goes to an individual that had a particularly good performance in one match, one singular match, whether that is try scoring, try assists, kicking game, running game, whatever it may be. It's always a regular season game, and it is always an individual player. So, here are our nominees. Nyona Broughton-Thompson in round 13. A very good performance from him. Chance Bunce, round 11. Another good performance there, scoring 6 tries in that match. Daniel Hellier, round 4. 5 try assists. And Liam Ryan, round 6. I think he had 5 tries in that one, if I'm remembering right, Liam. And he had a very good game in running meters as well. So some very strong contenders out here tonight.
Yeah, absolutely. I was very impressed with Liam there, especially his kick chase, and I think the efforts that he had there on that night. I think he had a lot of things that he was doing off the ball, because obviously he was very impressed with the tries, but even Jai McCarthy actually made a great point of this on the night, where he just talked about how effective he was in the attacking zone, because compared to his line breaks and run meters, the 5 tries was pretty impressive. But I also think that obviously, Chance Bunce, OG, the big guy, he won that record for a reason, and he was absolutely on fire that game. He's been on fire all season. And even on top of that, Bond's fantastic. And I think Hellier's a slept-on performance in there. I think he's been pretty good this season. And he's had to adjust to a new position, but he's worked out pretty well there. So yeah, fantastic attendance. Beautiful company.
Well, the fact Hellier's there against 3 players that have been here for season after season after season just shows you how well Hellier's settled into the Bulldogs over there. You've got, was Liam playing fullback for round 6?
Yeah, he was fullback back then.
Yeah, so we got 3 fullbacks there, and Daniel Hellier, who was playing, I think he was still playing hooker at that game.
The hooker or halves? Both
was
were
it
really
hooker or half?
impressive.
He would have been playing 5'8"
Yeah.
at that point.
There we go. So even if
Very
Hellier
impressive.
doesn't get the award tonight, he's got to be bloody proud of himself for standing up against those alumni of the SRL early seasons there.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with everything you've said, fellas. And without further ado, we will reveal that your Season 8 performance of the season goes to none other than Chance Bunce, round 11, breaking the try-scoring record and doing a very good performance to get his team the win over the Dolphins.
They couldn't really do anything else to earn that, couldn't you? 6 tries. It's a record that, considering how long the 5 tries stood and couldn't be broken, I think that one's going to be there for a very, very long time. And if we're not getting 99 rated players thanks to regression, good luck to anyone else who wants to beat that.
Yes, it's going to be very, very difficult as we move on. Almost done with these kind of ones, with the general ones. But here is our moment of the season. So these often go to a whole bunch of different kind of things. So sometimes it's a try, sometimes it's a lot of tries, sometimes it's a win over a team, or just a very fun moment all round that happens in our league. So a bit of a more diverse one. Our our nominees for this one are the Sonny Tyre field goal, where he just pulled up mid-run to kick the field goal in round 4 versus the Seagulls. The Cowboys comeback against the Bulldogs when they were 18 points down and won the match by a single point. The Roosters' only win of the season against the Rabbitohs in, of course, rivalry round, which they indulged in celebrating afterwards. And, of course, the Chance Bunce 6 tries in round 11 versus the Dolphins.
That is an eclectic mix of moments there, and a lot of memed moments there. We've already talked about the Cowboys and the Bunce 6 tries, so let's just focus a little bit on Sonny Tyre here. It seemed that in the off season, Tyre had gone to kicking camp, and it took him till round 4 to really, really focus on that. And that's one of the prime reasons that the Sharks were able to make it all the way to the minor premiership this season.
No, I couldn't agree more. I thought it's one of the funnier moments that happened in the SRL, because Sonny was one of those players that we always used to G up, talking about how unimpressive and mediocre his kicking game was. So he's absolutely turned it around. I'm sure he's going to love me saying that. But yeah, he's turned it around so much, and he's done such a good job, especially at such a key point when we need to kick field goals. And when you see how far the Sharks have come, yeah, I think that'll be massive for them. And obviously, the other one we have to talk about, the Roosters win. I think that, considering the kinds of air that the Roosters have always had about them, with Matt Harris being such a dominant captain, I think it's funny that we've got one of those moments in there, but I can't imagine how awesome that would have been to all the Roosters players in that moment. So yeah, I definitely think that one deserves its due as well, because those players would have been very proud.
You could only imagine what would have happened if Matty Harris had lost to the Rabbitohs. That's his arch nemesis there. And if you ever talk to Matty Harris, talk about the Rabbitohs, get ready for the bluest language you'd ever hear.
Yes, do not forget, this is not the Backyardigans, this is footy. But without further ado, our Season 8 moment of the season is someone that we've mentioned already. It is Chance Bunce breaking the record, scoring 6 tries. I think most people saw this one coming. It was just such an incredible feat for him to do, and he just kept on going all night long. So yes, that is our moment of the season. Chance Bunce adds to his SimVP records, I suppose, and awards once more tonight.
easiest clap ever. Like seriously, man, 6 tries. It's a bit ridiculous. It's a bit like
Easy.
it's a lot of tries, man. It's a lot of tries. So that
Je-
on top of what he's done all season, absolutely deserved.
Oh, I'd hate to have to come up against him in the grand final. That's for sure.
Yes. I mean, we had that terror last week. So,
Mm,
almost grand final. Underrated
almost grand final.
underrated player of the season. This award goes to a player that is probably not appreciated for what they give to their team. They usually go under the radar of both probably teammates and critics alike, as well as oppositions. But they always are very consistently strong in their performances and what they contribute to their team. So the nominees for this one, a couple of your boys here. Anthony, there's Caleb Jeff from the Brisbane Broncos, Errol Ray Romano from the Penrith Panthers, Sonny Sharp from the Brisbane Broncos as well, and Ryan Wilmot from the Melbourne Storm. So we've got 3 forwards and a back. Just talk us through maybe some of your Broncos boys here, Anthony, and we'll talk about the rest.
Well, we'll start with the beach sprinter, Caleb Jeff. He came to us from you, Will, at the Storm. You had to part with him, and he's just come over as an absolute mammoth for our starting forwards. He started off the bench at the beginning of the season, and after a couple of shuffles of our playing squad, he basically forced himself into a starting role and basically cemented himself there for the entire season. So we're looking for big things with Jeff next season, so hopefully he carries on that form. Sonny Sharp in the same way. I don't think he had an entire game where he didn't score less than 140 odd run meters at second row. He was into the centres there for a little bit as we were doing some experiments, but for our 11, we couldn't have hoped for a better Sonny Sharp this season.
Yeah, 100%. And honestly, I think it's an important thing to take into context for these Broncos players is that people had their very own certain views on how they would have performed before the season started, and a lot of those players would have come into the same discussions. So not only do the Broncos have a really strong year, obviously on the back of that, you can just tell that those performances, they made a massive difference, especially, look at Jeff coming off a premiership, and then what guys like starting where it was off us. So every single one of them absolutely deserves to be there, and I'm excited to see who wins this.
And then on the other side, we've got Wilmot, who's been an absolute workhorse for the Storm. You can maybe say a bit more about Wilmot if you want there, Kay?
I was going to say, if you're not rating Wilmot already, you're not in the know now.
Yeah, Ryan Wilmot.
He's an absolute gun.
He gets lost with the rest of our forward pack, I suppose. We've got a very strong forward pack, but Ryan Wilmot, whether he's off the bench or starting, always a strong prop, always a very hard-hitting ball runner and defender, so very strong. And then, of course, Errol Ray Romano, the winger for the Penrith Panthers. Just someone that flies under the radar a lot, I think. He just has this knack for getting into space, and more often than not, if he gets into space, actually scoring tries for the Panthers. They had actually, I know, despite the wins and losses that they had a very good season. Everything that they lost was very close. I think their biggest loss was only 20 points or something. The rest of them were pretty much within 12. So he had a very good season at the Panthers. I think that if you're John Boy-Mayavi, you try and keep him on the wing. But yeah, definitely a player that goes underneath the radar and flies under the radar. But without further ado, we will reveal that the underrated player for this season, for Season 8, is none other than the Brisbane Broncos' Sonny Sharp, a player that consistently got over 150 run meters, consistently got near or if not more than 200 run meters. Just a very strong player all season, and not many people sing his praises like maybe they should have.
Yeah, absolutely love it for Sharp. Wonderful result.
Talk about deserving too, hey?
Yeah, awesome. All right, we'll move on now, as we've got Rising Star of the Season. Now, this is usually a player that's not necessarily in their first season, or may not have had a full season of rookie, and usually is on the outskirts of that kind of award. The Rising Star is usually a player that we see up and coming, that we think is going to be a big thing in our game, the next big thing, and a young gun who's maybe played 1 or 2 seasons into their career already. So our nominees, we've got quite a few people that are pretty fresh, but there's a couple people that are also been 1 or 2 seasons in now. We've got Ben Cummins from the Gold Coast Titans, coming off the bench most games in at centre. Hopsgood for the Melbourne Storm, forward making up that 14 or 15 jersey. Lee Simon from the Auckland Warriors, played a lot of bench this season, but also played a lot of starting centres where he really began to shine. And Bobby Werman from the Cronulla Sutherland Sharks, coming off the bench, usually in the second row in the second half. So some very good players here. Where do you think that they rank against each other in terms of being the rising star of the season?
Well, we might get Liam to start this one off with his teammate Ben Cummins there.
Yeah, sorry, there was just packing up. I've got do a bit of moving at the moment, but yeah, for sure. I think when it comes to what Ben Cummins has offered us, especially considering where the season started with Jacob Fahey going inactive, he kind of slotted into a role that we didn't expect him to. We thought he'd be in the lines for a bit, but he came back and had an absolutely outstanding year for us, to be honest. I think he's been a shining light of the team, and also just the way that he applies himself generally. Obviously, he's not going to be staying at the club, but we're very happy with what he's brought in terms of just his NL around his head and everything that he's been able to do. And wherever he goes, I think he's going to be absolutely fantastic.
And then we had Lee Simons, who found himself at the Warriors under strange circumstances at the beginning of the season, but has worked his way into the Wars cult really, really strongly. You can only just see the fact that he's worked his way into an EU jumper for the Six Nations coming up, just to show how far he's come with his own game there.
Yeah, I understand. Just that much information, but I think personal growth in the NFL is something that should be looked at quite positively for players, especially when it comes to league, because you look at the obviously circumstances that he's come in, and then you look at where he is now. Because I can guarantee if you told him that you'd be playing for EU by the end of the year, that you'd be, one of the more positive and appreciated members of the community, I think that's something that he really would have appreciated.
And again, yeah.
Yeah, and we've got Hopsgood from the Melbourne Storm coming in around the mid-season mark, alongside teammate Crew Spencer after a little bit of a debacle there. But once again, a really good season off the bench for Hopsgood, and just really looking to pull home maybe an award, maybe looking at Rookie of the Year next season. Just a very strong all-round season from Hopsgood in the performance that they've had in the limited time that they've had. And of course, Bobby Werman, a very strong player from the Sharks. He just always gets amongst the ball, particularly at the end of the season. He really came into his own game. So he's been very strong as well for the Sharks. But we will reveal that the Season 8 Rising Star of the season goes to none other than the one and only Lee Simon from the Auckland Warriors.
Someone check on Lee Simon. Someone check on the chat. I imagine he is going nuts at the moment.
I know he should, man. That's like I really cannot stress it enough. You look at the pure turnaround that he's had just as a player and everything, the role that he's been able to settle down, and all kinds of things that he continues to do in the SRL now that he's really applied himself. And yeah, I'm definitely really proud to see a fellow community member do that, and I hope that he takes it with great dignity and appreciation.
Yes, good job to Lee. Congratulations, and we look forward to what you do. You're only starting off your career, and wherever you go from here, we are very excited to be on the journey with you. As we move now, the most improved player of the season is someone that was maybe not had the best of performances, or maybe they were good and just taken their game to the next level in Season 8. There are a couple of players like that in here, and it's not only just on-field stuff, it can also be off-field stuff, although it mostly is about the way that they played in the competition itself. So, our nominees for this one are Nyona Broughton-Thompson from the Cronulla Sutherland Sharks, Cyrus Marks from the Penrith Panthers, Daniel Hellier from the Canterbury Bankstown Bulldogs, and David Tiawa from the Auckland Warriors. Now, we've spoken a little bit about Daniel Hellier, so maybe we'll start with Nyona Broughton-Thompson from the Cronulla Sutherland Sharks. Before Bunce just snuck the record at the end by one try, he was the leading try scorer of the competition with 19 tries. After what you've probably got to say is a disappointing first season at the Sharks at fullback. Cyrus Marks, he's come leaps and bounds this season playing on both center and the wings, and he's made the difference in a lot of games for the Penrith Panthers. Daniel Hellier, I mean, we already spoke about him, but just the way he's come in his own halves. And David Tiawa, I mean, I think that speaks for himself. He is just one of the better players of the season, and he just came out of absolutely nowhere.
Yeah, and what is it about Warriors players to score that many tries at fullback? We had Bunt score 6, MBT score 5. David Tiawa, he was basically just a rookie last time I saw him, and now he's one of the leading try-scoring second rowers. So I don't know what they feed them over there at the Warriors, but it is working well.
Yeah, 100%. Guy knows how to get the best out of a player, and you can see it with the finals run that the Warriors made. Gordon Thompson, I thought he was going to absolutely light the world on fire last season. I was absolutely shocked, on the day of recording. I also said it before. In town, I was just like, look, I don't know how he hasn't come in and lit the world on fire. But it's really good to see him playing to his full potential over the next season, because back when I was at the Warriors, he was absolutely one of our best. Cyrus as well, I can also attest for. I remember there were times where he was struggling to even find a spot, and nowadays he was getting multiple offers come into the anti-tampering period was lifted, and it's completely deserved. As for Hellier and Salah, I think both of them were pretty good last season. I'm not gonna lie. They've absolutely earned the nominations, but I think that the leap that they've made, because I actually really rated David Tiawa last season, whereas Nana Borton Thompson, I think that he was playing well below his capabilities. So I'm gonna back my bro MBT for this one.
Alrighty, do you have a pick, Anthony?
I reckon Cyrus Marks, from what he was doing last season, coming off as a bench centre, to I think he even played fullback one season, one game this season, and
he did against the Storm,
so,
and he played very well
against the Storm.
Yes.
Yeah, so I'm going Marks.
Alrighty, well, our Season 8 most improved player of the season is the one and only Cyrus Marks from the Penrith Panthers. Mr. Fix-It for the Panthers and a very good outside back. You can put him anywhere in the back line and he will excel. Looking forward to seeing what he can do in Season 9 because he had a very good Season 8. So congratulations to you, Cyrus. We will move on because I do not want to drag this on too long before we get to the position of the year. So our bench player of the season, the most revered award in the SRL. Everyone loves being benched. Everyone loves coming off the bench and making an impact, and these players do that to perfection. Our nominees for this one are Justice Daly from the Canberra Raiders, infamously hard-hitting front row forward, Riley Murray from the Melbourne Storm, a capable forward, Rusty Shackelford from the Newcastle Knights, a very, very strong forward, and guess what? It's another forward, Bobby Werman from the Cronulla Sutherland Sharks. Really, I mean, I spoke about him before, but apart from Riley Murray, some of these players can be absolute game breakers.
Yeah, I think in the last couple of games, Justice Daly even got himself a triple in one of the last Raiders games. So that just shows you how much impact you can have off the bench there. Riley Murray, well, he loved the bench so much, he decided he had to go and start his own bench team over at the Tigers. So it'll be good to see what happens with Murray next season.
Yeah, I really liked your selection of words there too, Will, when you said that it was all the players apart from Riley who provided a great impact. That said, though, no, they're all completely deserving to be there. Rusty, I think, has kind of got on the radar, but Werman, he's been fantastic this season for the Sharks, especially because for him to hold his own compared to the rest of those Sharks boppers as well, that's actually fantastic. Justice Daly, he's been an absolute machine. You look at that Raiders team, a lot of them haven't really received much of the spotlight given their performances and their previous high standards that they kind of play themselves to, but I definitely think that Justice was had an absolute year for that box.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to what Justice Daly can do for the Canberra Raiders in Season 9. But we won't keep you too long. The bench player of the season, I know everyone's excited, is none other than the one and only Bobby Werman from the Cronulla Sutherland Sharks. Once again, a very strong second rower, and he is going to pull away with this award for himself tonight. The Sharks, they finally got one tonight, so big congratulations to Bobby Werman on that win. But we will move on, and we're finally at the positional awards, fellas. Now, fullback of the season. It speaks for itself, but I think this is probably the toughest position to pick the best player from. We have so many good fullbacks in the SRL, so many strong players in that position. And I think that really any one of the 14 teams. They've got a fullback that could be up here, but we've got to limit it to only 4. So our top 4 picks for fullback of the season were Nyana Broughton-Thompson, the Cronulla Sutherland Sharks, Chance Bunce, the Auckland Warriors, Kane Chapman-Kenny, Manly Warringah Seagulls, and Chaz Dingo, the North Queensland Cowboys. Now, looking at the fact that Chance Bunce and Kane Chapman-Kenny are both in that top 4 for the SimVP, it's going to go to one of them. Who do we think that is really just going to pull away here between those two?
Well, I don't want to say it again because Bunce has got enough jewelry in his pocket tonight, but it's got to be Bunce with that record-breaking season he had to bring his Warriors team from -4 all the way to one point off a grand final. That's got to be something special.
Yeah, I mean, 6 tries. That's so many tries. I mean, I can't even count to 6 personally because there's only 5 fingers on each of my hands, so I can't count to 6. But yeah, that's really impressive. That's like a lot of tries.
It is. Wise words. That is like a lot of tries. Chance Bunce, 6 tries. Kane Chapman-Kenny had a very good season as well at Manly in his last season as captain, and he really led them around the park. But without further ado, our fullback of the season for Season 8 is none other than, of course, who else could it be but Chance Bunce. I don't think anyone is surprised by this one, but a record-breaking season. He not only scored the most tries in one game, he scored the most tries in a season with 20. Unreal work from Chance Bunce this season, and a big congratulations to him. We move on now to winger of the season. Often a little bit more of a harder pick because the wingers in this competition, not only is it hard to maintain form throughout games, but it's also very hard to distinguish yourself from other wingers. So our top 6 picks and our nominees for this award are Michael Crimp from the Cronulla Sutherland Sharks, Riley Flynn from the Canberra Raiders, Shannon Freeburn from the Manly Warringah Seagulls, Kobe Kelly from the North Queensland Cowboys, Cyrus Marks from the Penrith Panthers, and Angie Slugger from the Canterbury Bankstown Bulldogs. Now, there's a lot of players to talk around here. Who do you guys think out of this list are the most likely to pull away with the award here?
I'm going to put my vote in for Freeburn for one. He was absolutely phenomenal for us at the Eels, and ever since he got traded over to the Sea Eagles, he's just taken his game higher and higher and higher. I'm also probably going to say Kobe Kelly. Ever since he went to the Cowboys, he's been one of their top try scorers, maybe their top try scorer after Dingo. So if it's not one of those two, I wouldn't be surprised though.
Yeah, I'm going to have to go between Crimp and Slugger. Hey, and that's not to diminish what Freeburn or Kelly have done, because they've been absolute guns this season. But I think Crimp, what he's been able to do, taking into account everything that he has offered to that team that he wasn't really giving them last season, I think he could even be possibly a shout for most improved, obviously, in that short list. Angie Slugger, he's come a long way from, I think he was in the minds of the Blue Tongues, wasn't he?
Yes.
I still remember having to play against this guy. Yeah, he's an absolute freak. So good to see him playing that well for the Bulldogs, and they can really develop a winger because they had to fill that spot with Corey Goats leaving as well, because some guy took Corey Goats from his previous team, and yeah, that was Slugger. He's been absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, and you guys have both said 2 candidates. I'll go the last 2. Riley Flynn. A real breakout season for him on the wing. He was just a lot to handle for opposition wingers. And, of course, Cyrus Marks. I mean, he's played... It was half and half whether he goes centre or winger of the season. We chose winger because we think that's where he made more of an impact. But he was just always dangerous when he was out on the wing and often actually won games. Well, not won games. We got the Panthers back into competition for games. But only 2 of these individuals can be your wingers of the season. Without further ado, that is Riley Flynn from the Canberra Raiders and Michael Crimp from the Cronulla Sutherland Sharks. Big congratulations to them both and well-deserved awards.
It's high, that's pretty good. Both very well deserved, yeah. That's fantastic. Oh, wait, I thought it's high because there's 2 of them. Sorry.
Yes, there's 2 wingers on each team, but yes. It was very hard to distinguish
So
between all 6 of those.
I can count to 1.
You can count to 1. Okay.
I can count to 1.
Awesome.
Keep it in mind.
As we move on now, the center of the season. Once again, there's 6 nominees for this one. This is always a hard position to not only win, but to also pick, because centers, they don't have the impact in the SRL as they do in the NRL. So these are usually standout players that play their position very well. And we look at both, a big aspect of it is defense as well as offense, and what they can do for the team in some of the big moments of games. So we look at this, and we've got 6 nominees: Zachary Brown from the Brisbane Broncos, Craig Hustler from the Dolphins, the first Dolphins nominee of the night, Dylan Murray from the Gold Coast Titans, Thomas Usher from the Cronulla Sutherland Sharks, Aaron White from the Auckland Warriors, and Dom Young from the Manly Warringah Seagulls. Now, we have a lot of young and people probably new to their careers here, barring maybe Aaron White. What do we think of these players, and where do we think they stand amongst each other?
Well, I've been saying it all season, Will. This has been the season of the centre. We've always had centres as a bit of a joke, as a bit of a position people don't want to play. But these boys standing up, they've shown game after game centre's a really good position to play. Personally, I've got to do it. I'm going for Zachary Brown. Almost a rookie. He came to us quite green, and he's just worked his way into the starting side as a centre. I also reckon Dom Young's probably got a good chance up there too. Another really young player who shouldn't be playing as well as he is, but time and time again finding his way across the line there.
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree more. It's actually really impressive seeing Dom get there, because I still remember being his mind mentor for the 3 weeks that I was active to do that. Other than that, I have to say Usher and White, to be honest. I think Aaron White really contributes to the team defensively through his pick chase. And Thomas Usher is also just, he's very elusive. You can't really get him whenever he's in space. Then again, also Craig Hustler as well. He's been absolutely fantastic this season. I think Snicko's been very shrewd with selecting who takes up those center jerseys, and Hustler, I think he's definitely earned that and makes a very big difference.
Absolutely. And of course, lastly, Dylan Murray. We'll give him a quick puff up that he's just been very solid center for a couple seasons now for the Titans. And he just always can make these big plays when they matter most. So a very good player as well. But we can only have 2, unfortunately. And your season 8 center of the season is both Dom Young from the Manly Warringah Seagulls and Thomas Usher from the Cronulla Sutherland Sharks. 2 players that are fairly green in their careers, but I think well-deserved awards, as both players played on different sides of the fields, but made a big impact for their team. Cool. As we will move on now. Next one is 5/8 of the season. As we know, the 5/8 is probably the most important playmaking position, barring the hooker, in the SRL. They do a lot of kicking, both near the line and in general play, and you need them to be not only good at that, but reliably consistent with your kicks. Otherwise, you get what is known as a Will K kick or a Sonny Tyre kick, and they can really put your team in a bit of trouble. So this position is a very important one for each team, and these nominees tonight just excel in this position for their sides. So, without further ado, Daniel Hellier is our first nominee from the Canterbury Bankstown Bulldogs. We've seen his name pop up a lot tonight already. Sione Mata'us for the Penrith Panthers, Joe McCartney from the Auckland Warriors, and Sonny Tyre from the Cronulla Sutherland Sharks. Now, infamously, Daniel Hellier, he's been nominated for a Hooker of the Year award, and now he's got 5/8 of the season award. That's definitely one of our players, but I think all these players here are very strong contenders, wouldn't you say, fellas?
Oh, definitely. And what you've got here is you've got the 2 young guns challenging the 2 old boys, Daniel and Sione up against Jai and Sonny. So it'll be interesting to see what actually comes out of it. Jai, of course, has been around the chops for a bit, and I think personally this is probably has been his best season over at the Warriors. It's Sonny again taking his team all the way to the minor premiership. That's got to be pretty close to getting him that award there too.
Yeah, I mean, just these players. Joe McCartney, he's had such a great season. I think even more so since Rowan Caval's arrived at the club. Sione Mata'us, very solid for the Panthers, as always, really. Like, that's expected from him at this point. And then Sonny Tyre. But I think, Daniel Hellier, just the way he's been playing, the way he made that 6 jersey himself, had Origin been a bit later in the season, I think he would have made his way into the Blues camp easily. So yeah, just a very good performance all season from Daniel Hellier. But it's a very tight race between these four players. But of course, with his first ever SimVP medal win, it is none other than Daniel Hellier, the 5/8 of the season. I'm sure we will definitely hear about this for years to come, Anthony.
Oh, especially. At least he'll stop talking about his Hooker of the Year nomination now, because he's now won himself 5/8 of the year. So we need to see an update on your stats there, Daniel. It's well deserved.
Yeah, and disappointingly, he has been playing halfback all of final series. So I hope that he goes back to I hope he goes back to 5/8 next season. But I guess we'll wait and see. It is quite amusing that is the case. But next up, halfback of the season award. Once again, an important spine, perhaps not as much of a playmaker as the 5/8, but their running game and their playmaking is still very important for teams. We see some very good players come into this position, and it's usually the position to play. You know, if you're not a fullback or a center, that's maybe where you start in your career. A lot of the time, you move it to a halfback because you know your defense and your running game. It really helps out teams. But they're just pivotal members of teams, and they make some big plays in some big moments. Without further ado, our nominees for this one are Trey Bonsakahu from the Melbourne Storm, Mike Borsons from the Gold Coast Titans, Isaac Edwards from the Brisbane Broncos, and O'Shea Ole from the Dolphins. I think we just look at these guys and we know they make some big plays in some really special moments for their clubs. It's very hard to distinguish between them.
And I've played with three of these boys: TBK, Edwards, and Ole. Ole at the Eels, TBK in the Great Britain team last season, and of course Edwards. He's my number 7, and he's absolutely. I came to the Broncos and I didn't realize Edwards was a fullback primary. So for a fullback primary to be kicking and running and attacking as well as he has, it's absolutely phenomenal. And well, Borsons. There's a reason Borsons is Titans captain and next season's Newcastle's captain. He's not just a great player on the field, but he's a great leader for his team off the field too.
Yeah, Borsons this season, he's got his team out of a few sticky situations, just individual brilliance. Whether it's his kicking game, whether it's his running game, it's scoring tries or setting them up. And of course, he's not only made his Blues debut this season, but also his Australian debut. I mean, you look at these 4 players and you just think they're all great halfbacks. But there can only be one winner this season, and your season 8 halfback of the season is none other than, of course, Mike Borsons. A tremendous season, one to be remembered. A very strong player for his team, and I'm looking forward to what he can do if he remains in the halfback jersey over in Newcastle. So big congratulations to Mike. Well done on the win. Now, we're at the halfway point of our positional awards of the year, meaning we are now going to the Rookie of the Season. The Rookie of the Season is someone that usually started at the very start of the year or near it, and has been a very solid player for their team. Not only contributing to on-field, games, but also contributing well off-field, getting amongst their team and really enjoying the environment. Without further ado, our 4 nominations are Harry Cheddar from the Newcastle Knights, very strong forward. Sorry, that's wrong. That's actually the Canberra Raiders, Harry Cheddar. The interns obviously messed that up. Lachlan Lockyer from the Auckland Warriors, playing at hooker. Lenny Phillips from the North Queensland Cowboys, playing at centre. And Dom Young from Manly Warringah Seagulls, also playing at centre. Now, a bit of diversity here between the positions. Anthony, what do you think of these players and how they shape up against each other? Do you think that it will be one of the centres, or do you think it's going to be one of the forwards?
Oh, it's really, really hard to check. The Rookie of the Season, I think, is always really hard to do each season, because you've got all these different positions and they've all got their different roles on the field. You've got your forwards bashing up the middle. You've got your centres slipping down the sideline and stopping other people slipping down the sideline. But for me, it's got to be Lockyer. To be a rookie hooker in a season 1 team like the Warriors, you've got to have some strong stuff, not just on the field, but also for whatever happens in the Colts locker room over there.
Yeah, and I think even when Jaden White left the club, for Lachlan Lockyer to really step up off the bench and now into that starting role and play the way he did, just always a very solid performance from him, um, and just one of the really good players of this season. I think that I 100% agree with you. And I mean, we'll reveal it now. The rookie of the season for season 8 is none other than Lachlan Lockyer from the Auckland Warriors, a hooker that we are looking forward to playing, hopefully for them, or at the very least another club for many seasons to come. Just a very strong player, and he should be very proud of how he's done this season, as should his club. So well done to all the rookies and all the nominees. But Lachlan Lockyer is your season 8 rookie of the year. Now, we move on, Anthony, and this is your area of expertise. The prop of the season. I mean, props in the SRL, they're known for basically running hard and hitting hard. They make a platform for their team. They make defensive plays that can really save points, can save meters, can save position, and they're just integral in the cogs of any good, I guess, machine that is a team, any good system. So our nominees for this one, we've got 6, and some players that are both used to being in the top 6 and both also not used to it. So Jesse Bennett from the South Sydney Rabbitohs, a veteran in this position. David Barner, Auckland Warriors. He's coming to prop this season. He hasn't played there much in his career previously. Christian McKay, Gold Coast Titans. Similar story to David Barner. John Nanai, Newcastle Knights. He's just been a veteran in that position, hasn't he? Lennox Prakash, another veteran in the prop. Very good start to the season from him. And Lecky Tua from the Cronulla Sutherland Sharks. Still a player that's fairly new in his career. And a second row primary that has moved in the props the last couple of seasons. He's got a starting gig now. And he's become a very, I guess, impactful player. I mean, how would you separate these guys, Anthony?
Well, I'm just going to say it. To be a prop in the SRL, you need at least 2 brain cells to rub together, and some props out there would struggle to do that. These guys, they've got at least 3 brain cells each, and that's why they're on this list here. So you've got your Bennetts, you've got your Nanais, you've got your Prakashas, who've been around forever, and your Barner, and then you've got your young bloods in McKay and Tua. Personally, I reckon Freaky McKay, he's got to be up there somewhere. He has had an absolutely phenomenal season. But then again, you can't really go past Nanai. When you think of props, you think of Nanai.
Yeah, absolutely. You think of Nanai. Just quickly, Jesse Bennett, a player that really led the pack and led the Rabbitohs to many of their wins. Lennox Prakash, the captain for most of the season for the Penrith Panthers. I mean, he was very strong as well, wasn't he? Especially at the start of the season. He dropped off in form maybe a little bit later in the season, but he was very good at the start. And Lecky Tua, perhaps maybe a bit of an underdog in this nomination, but someone that really deserves recognition for the work that he's been doing at prop for his team. But your season 8 prop of the season, or props of the season, without further ado, are David Barner from the Auckland Warriors and Jesse Bennett from the South Sydney Rabbitohs. Big congratulations to those two. Some big seasons from both of them and well-deserved awards. As we will move on now. And now we got the hooker of the season. Now, unfortunately, this is a award for a position of rugby league. But, hookers, very important in what they do in the spine, serving off from the dummy half roll, leading the ball around, making a lot of tackles in defense. It's a position that you don't give to just anyone. It has to be earned and has to be proven before they may put on that 9 jersey permanently. So, we've got Tom Jamison from the North Queensland Cowboys, Mark Lee from the Gold Coast Titans, James Thorne from the Melbourne Storm, and Kieran Wells from the Dolphins. What do we think, Anthony? How are we feeling about this one? We've got some young people. We've got one young person and 3 old heads that have been around for a while now. How do you separate these guys?
Oh, you can't separate these guys. Each of these blokes are the lifeblood of their teams. I think Jamison, to be a rookie hooker, is almost impossible in the SRL. And that boy, there's a reason why there's a move named after Jamison. He has been phenomenal. Mark Lee went over to the to the Titans, and he's been absolutely great. And I think he's played a little bit of lock as well towards the end of the season, which has been really good to see. Thorn, well, he was our hooker of the season last season, wasn't he, Will?
Yes, James Thorne. I mean, I think once again he's gotten, if not the try assist record, he's tied himself with last season, I think. We're still waiting on a couple of things from turnover of the stats, but yeah, very solid season from James Thorne.
Yeah. And Wells, well, I think Wells, as VC of the Dolphins, he's the first person Snicko went after when Snicko was named as Dolphins captain. And obviously there's a reason for that. So well done for all these blokes here.
Yeah, big congratulations. So we'll have a look very quickly at who won this award. And without further ado, it is James Thorne from the Melbourne Storm going back to back in his hooker of the season wins. A very close competition between these four players, but James Thorne just getting an edge over the rest of them this time, Anthony.
Yep, and well deserved. Is he our Australian hooker as well? There, Will.
Oh, I can't say too much.
Ooh.
Mm.
Oh, almost got it out of you.
Oh, almost got me. Almost got me. But yeah, very good season from him. But we will move on as we go. Second row of the year. I mean, we've been talking about it, but often the second rowers of teams can make or break in certain moments of games. These players that are nominated tonight, they have shown a high level of consistency and a high level of performance over the entire season with how they've performed at second row, how they've played. And that is more than just how many meters they run and how many tries they scored. It's also about their defense and their support with their halves on either side of them. So we have we have 6 nominations here. We've got Jamal Kausikau from the Cronulla Sutherland Sharks, an ever strong performer in the second row position. Jacob Morrison from the North Queensland Cowboys moving into that spot this season. Igor Makazi from the Dolphins, going for a very strong Warriors season. He's now got a nomination for second row of the year for the Dolphins. Logan Strange from the Auckland Warriors. Mr. SRL himself, he's been performing all year. David Tiawa, also from the Auckland Warriors. I mean, you can't really say much about David Tiawa. He was a second row that was leading the competition in SimVP points for a while there. And the New South Wales Blues debutant, Coven Walmsley, at second row for the Manly Warringah Sea Eagles. This is a very hard pick between all 6 of these players, Anthony, so I want to hear your thoughts here.
Oh, well, you asked in chat earlier, Will, which players you hate to sim against, and I hate simming against Kausikau. That man just breaks the line so easily and so effortlessly, and when he does, he offloads and someone's over to score. So Kausikau's been around for a bit, and he's definitely still up there. You can't really go past Mr. SRL himself either. He had a slow start to the season a little bit, but Logan Strange, since he's come back from retirement, he's just leaps and bounds above some of the other second rowers. So I reckon those two are my pick for the award.
Yeah, and I think you got to think about a whole range of players here. Morrison, I mean, he's just decimated teams. He decimated my team as well, like 3 tries or something. It's silly. Eagle McCuzzy, a try-scoring freak, consistently getting that 200-meter mark. Walmsley, very similar. And David Tiawa, I mean, we saw what damage he did, especially at the start of the season, but he did prolong that throughout. And he scored the most SimVP points of any second rower, so just very hard. He didn't get close to the award, but he did get a lot of points. So, without further ado, maybe I've spoiled it a little bit there, but second rows of the season for season 8 are none other than Yigo Makazi from the Dolphins and David Tiar from the Auckland Warriors, 2 players that have played very well all season, and I think are well deserving of these awards.
Yep, and Snicko will be happy. A couple of his Dolphins have got him some awards, so he'll be definitely looking forward to season 9 now.
Yes, he sure will be. As we move on, finally for the position awards, we have the lock of the season awards. So I'll let you lead this one, Anthony. But we've got Patrick Corcoran from the Auckland Warriors, Will Kay from the Melbourne Storm, Chris Lord from the Dolphins, and Luke Malkus from the Cronulla Sutherland Sharks. Quite a diverse array of forwards here.
Yeah, let's just start with Will Kay. Now, I won't lie. Lots of people laughed when you moved yourself to lock there, Will, last season after Fehu left unceremoniously. But I mean, there's a reason why the Storm are where they are, and as lock, you've absolutely been able to steer your team straight down the chaps into almost a second grand final. Paddy Corcoran's been around forever, and he's absolutely phenomenal. And I think this has probably been his best season at lock. So there's that. Chris Lord is the player who basically has made the lock position what it is. And the day that Chris Lock does not get nominated for the Lock of the Season award is the day that Chris Lock has retired from the SRL. And then you got Luke Malkus. Luke Malkus has been one of the top SimVP runners all season, leapfrogging K, then K leapfrogs him, and it's just personally, I think it's going to be between K and Malkus. Not putting shade on the other two boys, but I reckon it's between you and Luke there, Will.
Yeah, well, without further ado, I mean, some very good players in the lock position. It's a very important position that we have in the SRL. But without further ado, the lock of the season goes to myself, Will K from the Melbourne Storm. Yes. Not going to say much more.
No,
Nope.
people can say what they want. You definitely deserve that there, Will. To be a half primary and to be a lock is not an easy task, and you've been able to not just make it your own, but absolutely excel there. So screw the haters. You deserve that one, Will.
Thank you. And last but not least, certainly actually not least, probably the most, Player of the Season award. This is for the SimVP winner on votes, on points that they earn from votes. So, real quickly, how our voting system works, if you're not familiar, is that there are 2 3-2-1s that are given out at the end of every match. You get the commentators give a 3-2-1 vote to who they thought was the strongest performers in that order. And of course, the stats will tell the story as well with 3-2-1 votes in a game. Now, our final four and our top four is between 2 fullbacks and 2 locks. It was Chance Bunce from the Auckland Warriors, someone that scored very highly in terms of points. Kane Chapman-Kenny, again, a very high scorer in terms of points. Will K, I mean, I don't have to say it, and Luke Malkus also. All 4 of these players. I mean, yeah, they're at the top, but just how tight this race was in the end. A bit of a pull away in the last game from the winner, but before that, it was about 3 points between all 4 of these players. So some very good performances all round. Without further ado, your SimVP medalist, the Logan Strange Award, goes to none other than Will K from the Melbourne Storm. Bit awkward, but a 41 point season in terms of total votes from Will K has earned him that.
And like I said, there's a reason that the Storm are in the grand final again for the second season in a row. So well deserved and well worth waiting for it.
Yes, and thank you all. I'm sure I get some great messages in the coming moments, but thank you all for staying tuned. If you want to have a look at the SimVP Season 8 points, you can find them later tonight. I will post them up for you. But yes, Will K on 41, Luke Malkus on 37, Kane Chapman-Kenny on 31, Chance Bunce on 29, Eli Barnes on 29, Chris Lord on 29, and then, I mean, I could go on, but it was quite tight up the top there for the last couple of rounds, so it was quite a tight race. But thank you all for tuning in tonight. I hope you enjoyed the awards, and make sure you tune in on Sunday night for the grand final. Of course, there's going to be more games during the day, so make sure you stick around to watch them as well. We've got the Combine game, we've got the All-Stars game, we've got the SRL Mines grand final, and then we've got the SRL grand final. Make sure you tune in for that. Thank you very much for joining us tonight. And we hope you had a very good time. And big thank you to Anthony McDonald and Liam Rogers, who had to pop off early for joining me tonight. So, yeah, make sure you tune in and have a good one.